We're live!
All right.
Happy November 1st, everyone, or for those of you watching in the future, hello from November 1st. Welcome to our office hours.
Sugar rush after Halloween.
Yes. Oh. Did y'all get a good haul of candy?
It was all right.
It was all right? Oh, jeez. I always try to just go for the chocolates. And I like when the kids say twinkle tweet. It's just really cute, and I really enjoy that. So, welcome everyone to the GitKraken office hours.
Hello.
My name is Jonathan. I'm joined by Hamid, and today's guest is Justin Roberts, who is our UX UI designer.
Hi, everybody.
Here at GitKraken. So here's how the show will roll. So this is half-hour office hours, and for those of you who are watching live right now, you have the opportunity to go to the live chat and post any questions you have for any of us, really, but specifically for Justin, especially if you have any questions about the UI, UX of GitKraken or Glow, or even just general questions about design. It's going to ask me anything, basically, at this point. We do have one quick reminder about our GitKraken referral program.
Yeah.
That's currently in progress. So you have the opportunity to win a Nintendo Switch. The way it works is if you sign up for GitKraken and someone uses your referral link, and they just sign up for a free account, they'll also be entered to win a Nintendo Switch. So if you win, that person wins, or
it's backwards.
It's backwards.
If the person that you refer wins, then you also win. And we've already given away 8 of them, right?
Wow.
So,
nice.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
So
We're giving 2 away every week, roughly, I think. And we have 12 more to give away, so it's pretty exciting.
And if you already have a Nintendo Switch, it's a great holiday gift, right?
It's like perfect.
It's perfect. It's perfect. Easy gift for everyone there. What else has been in the news in terms of, I guess this is not quite a GitKraken specific announcement, but might be worth talking about Github recently getting acquired by Microsoft.
Yeah.
And not only that, I think it cleared in the European Union.
Mm-hmm.
So now the new CEO, Nat, took over.
Yeah.
I mean, just quick thoughts on that since that's in the news.
Yeah, so we're kind of excited to see what happens there. You know, in the past when Microsoft bought a company, you'd be like very nervous about it because Microsoft bought companies and they would die over time, like they'd have a slow death. But the way they have been operating under Satya Nadella is pretty good. They've been, first of all, embracing open source and embracing Linux, and they've been a huge contributor to the open source community. And they've been running their recent acquisitions like LinkedIn like completely separate from Microsoft. And it appears as though they're going to do that with this GitHub acquisition. So we're actually kind of excited. Nat seems like a great guy to be running it. So,
I had even forgotten that LinkedIn is now part of Microsoft.
Yeah, they haven't done anything kind of crazy.
Just kind of like,
LinkedIn.
LinkedIn's still LinkedIn.
Yeah. But, like we used to be like Yammer users,
Yeah,
right? Like Yammer got purchased by Microsoft. It just disappeared, But that was under the Ballmer era of Microsoft.
Steve Ballmer, and then the current CEO, right?
The current CEO is Satya Nadella, and ever since he's taken over, it seems like Microsoft has had a major turnaround. So it's really good. I'm excited. What do you think, Justin?
I mean, I definitely think that the company feels like they have a better outlook towards the community. Like they feel like they're really listening to people and trying to kind of erase some of the maybe like bad impressions that people have had of Microsoft in the past.
Right.
So I'm super excited. I like the leadership of Satya Nadella now, and I'm like worried less when they acquire someone that they're going to destroy it, and really looking forward to what they do with GitHub. And
yeah, they seem to be like really concerned to be making the right decisions.
Yeah,
everywhere.
they're very conscious of what people think of them, I think.
Right.
And they're making decisions based on it.
Whereas before, decisions seem to be like revenue driven,
Mm-hmm.
Like, will this make us more money or not? And if yes, then you and now it seems like they're, like decisions are driven by like, what's the right thing to do as
Mm-hmm.
opposed to revenue driven.
Mm-hmm.
And usually, the right thing to do long term is better for you revenue wise anyways, as Microsoft has seen in its stock price and performance. So, but
All right. So
hopefully.
we're starting to get some questions.
Yeah,
Very
all right,
excited.
let's
So
do
before we
it.
dive into some of the questions, so again, for those of you watching live, feel free to post questions in the live chat. We'll see them and we'll try to get them in. But Justin, for those of you who might not be familiar with you, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? and what you do here at GitKraken.
Yeah, so my name is Justin. I have been with Axosoft for almost 4 years now, and right when I came here, I basically worked for a week and then got dumped right onto GitKraken. Like a little tiny baby Kraken, and didn't have much of anything to see. So I've pretty much been working on that project since its inception, and like working with the devs to develop the UI for that. And it's been a really fun journey to start with something that doesn't exist and to grow it with like the amazing user base that it has and into a product that people really seem to love. So that's been super fun. Just a little bit of background about me. I've studied all kinds of things in college. I started out in architecture. I studied some sculpture, ended up getting a degree in web development afterwards. And I think that all of those have kind of been good experiences that have helped culminate in like an ability to really look for what a user wants in a product and build something that looks good and functions well. And that experience has helped a lot in building GitKraken. So that's a little bit of background about me. Anything else that you think would be?
That's a fantastic start. I do remember you had shorter hair when you first started.
Yeah,
so
my hair was much shorter, and it's just been getting long the entire time. Yeah, pretty much.
Like, I look back on some of the photos, like when you guys did the server photo.
Yeah. I think I stopped cutting it shortly after I came here, and it was pretty long. I just cut it recently, but yeah. It's kind of a timeline. It's my commit graph growing out of my head.
Lots of branches.
So we do have a couple questions coming in. It looks like they're product specific. So Harold, hi Harold, wants to know any possibility of adding the commit number to the history pane next to each commit entry. I wonder if by commit number they mean the SHA.
The SHA?
Is
It could be, and that's a question that we get a lot in relation to other bits of information in the graph. So, sometimes people will want to see the author of the commit, or the date that it was committed, or the SHA. And we try to present that information in places that try to keep the graph from getting cluttered. It is in the commit details if you look at the commit itself. But right now we don't include all of that metadata about the commit in the graph. And the goal of that is to like keep the graph as clean as possible so that you can just use that as your overview and then dive into the commit for more information.
Can you touch on the graph is like it's front and center when you open GitKraken. What was the thought process when we were initially designing that out? Or
yeah, the graph was one of the first places that we started, and it was really born out of like the desire to have something that was better than what we had seen in all of the other clients, right? So we did a lot of comparing against the clients that existed before GitKraken and saying, well, what do we like about them and what don't we like about them? And some of the problems that we were always seeing in the graph was that like it was very difficult to follow what was happening because it was either getting too cluttered with information.
Right.
The graph itself was being kind of compressed and contorted in ways that made it difficult to follow. So our initial goal was to make that view, the graph, like super easy to follow and skim when you scroll down. So your graph is basically just a history of all of your commits, right? You can have hundreds or thousands of them. So the ability to scan that accurately.
Can we get the graphic for the
yeah,
graph?
we have a graphic for the graph right now.
Just the main view. There we go. So you can see
there's actually a view of just the graph too, and that might give us a little bit more detail.
There we go.
So when you're looking at your commit history, you want to be able to scan that quickly and like see what branch I'm on, what commit I'm looking at, and what the commit message is.
Right.
And in a lot of other clients, what they do is they will kind of like squish the graph to save space, and that makes all of the branches kind of like weave away from their vertical column. And when you're scrolling lots of information, you want things to stay in columns, so it's easier to find.
Sure, we have an ability to like expand and shrink the graph as well, but it's a little bit different because we're not trying to squeeze those lines in there when it's tiny, right? So you're just looking at sort of the commit history.
So if space is like your main concern and you don't really care about seeing all the branches, you can collapse the graph into just a single line. But what we wanted to do is keep everything in its vertical column.
Sure.
So all of the commits are lined up, so you can scan them, and the branches don't weave around unless they are actually diverging and then and merging back into their branch.
And that's one of the things that I think users, GitKraken users in particular, and you can go back, love about GitKraken is being able to like see what's happening in their repos. I think that we get more compliments on the graph in particular than anything else, any other part of the product, because the moment you open a repo, you have that graph, and for the first time ever, potentially, you are actually looking at what happened in your repo in a very visual, colorful, beautiful way. And I think users really love it. So I think you guys did a great job of designing that.
Thanks.
Excellent.
I think it's super important if you're going to make a GUI, it should be visual. And that was one of the things that we like noticed in a lot of the other clients is that like you would open it up and just like kind of be lost immediately.
Right.
So we wanted people to be able to see GitKraken, know where they were, and be able to visualize Git in a way that hasn't been done before.
Now, going back to the sort of SHA question, like the SHA is not on the graph itself, but we have like a fuzzy finder, right? Like, does the fuzzy finder allow you to search for SHAs?
Yes. So you can search for commit by SHA if you want to search for a commit.
Okay.
But the idea is like just displaying every SHA in the graph like is only going to clutter it. And you generally, if you're going to look for a SHA, you either know the SHA and you're trying to find the commit, or you know the commit you're on and you're trying to find the SHA.
Right. So how do you bring up the fuzzy finder, by the way?
So Command P or Control P will bring up the fuzzy finder, which is just like a way to quickly access a lot of actions and different views in GitKraken. So you could do Command P, and then that will open up the fuzzy finder. A quick way to get into searching for commits is just Command F or Control F.
Okay.
So it's just like your general search will take you directly into commit search.
Gotcha.
So the search bar at the top right. So like what they're seeing right here in the top right, you can just click that instead, and you'll just jump straight to the commit search within the fuzzy finder.
Right. You can either click on the search icon in the top, or you can do Command P, type in commit search, or you can do Command F to just jump right into searching.
And Shane, we can go back to the video.
We're getting more questions. So
okay.
Yeah,
bring them on.
That's good.
Bring them on.
So Joel wants to know, are we going to see with conflict resolution being able to take changes from one side or the other, take all changes from one branch of a rebase? So I'm curious to know if Joel has seen the merge conflict editor, because I think you can do that from unless
if you want to bring that up, we have an example of how that works too in the conflict resolution. So what we're seeing here is like a conflict between two branches when you're doing a rebase. So you see one branch on the left, one branch on the right. And you can either check the very top, so where we have A or B and then the name of the branches. Checking that will just take all of the changes from that branch.
Right.
Or you can go into more granular detail and you can select individual lines. And if you're a pro user, you can even go down into the output in the bottom and manipulate that manually. You can change the output and type in commands.
So if you're using the free version, you probably won't be seeing this UI specifically. But if you are a student, you can take advantage of the GitHub Student Pack to get access to GitKraken Pro for free. And that's available. We actually have a page on it. Let me see if I got this. GitKraken.com/student-resources. Yeah! All right, Sarah's telling me I got it right. So we'll post a link down there in the chat for those of you who are watching right now, and we'll also post a link in the description for those of you who are watching the recording. We have one from Josie. Hello, Josie.
Hi,
we
Josie.
always enjoy seeing you here.
Hopefully we're
posting
saying
questions.
her name right.
I really hope so, yeah. If you ever want to send us a phonetic,
let us know.
is it Yossi?
Send us a video.
Because it could be Yossi. So different users have different needs and wants for how to use an app. How do you plan for user accessibility? How do you balance that with other users' needs and wants?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
I think like one of our primary focuses when we designed GitKraken was to like keep it simple. Like we wanted to keep it as simple as possible without confusing people who already know how to use Git. So we were really, really careful to not like rename actions that people were familiar with when using Git, because that would just confuse people. So we tried to keep it as simple as possible so that someone that comes in can kind of like have a nice initial view.
Familiar terminology, that's
right. Keep the terminology familiar and also not just overwhelm you with too much information. We do that in a couple of different ways. We have user onboarding that, like when you come into GitKraken for the first time, we'll kind of like ask you what you want to do.
Oh.
So if you want to open a repository you already have.
I think we have a start screen there.
Yeah, we have
can
a
show real quick.
Image of that, the welcome view.
The welcome, yes.
So this will just kind of like guide you from like, I'm just opening this application for the first time. What do I want to do? If I want to start a project, if I want to open something I already have, like we guide you through that process. And even with our integrations, give you a way to quickly say like, I want to connect to GitHub because I know I have all my stuff there, and I want to start like cloning repos from GitHub. But to answer the question more specifically for like different levels of users, I think the overarching idea was to keep it as simple visually as possible, but layer in different functionality for power users, people who might be more used to typing commands into the CLI. And I think that's where tools like the fuzzy finder come in.
Right.
If you're more comfortable staying on your keyboard and you know like the commands that you're doing, you can do a lot of it from there. You can check out branches, you can open a repo, you can start a new branch, you can do all those things with keyboard shortcuts or through the fuzzy finder. So we're trying to find a nice balance of like, how do we keep the UI clean enough for everyone to understand, but still have functionality for people who are comfortable with the command line.
Now, like to do that, as you and I are work closely together on determining sort of like product direction and feature sets, and there's always this balance of like, do we have the feature set that we want to have in there, and making sure that it's easy but yet discoverable, all this stuff, and I know that like. We both say no a lot to feature requests, right? So like, what are your thoughts about that? Like, what,
no immediately.
No immediately, and
no.
Unless somebody like really wants to fight for it, they have to get past the first automatic no. Is that?
I mean, I think that's one of the benefits of working really closely with the dev team. So we don't silo like design away from dev. Like I sit in the room with the developers and we all have conversations about the things that we are working on. And that allows us to like really analyze the things that we're about to do before they do them.
Right.
Before we do them. So if somebody, so if someone has an idea and they're like, oh, I'm going to like do this thing and I'm just going to like throw a setting in for it. Everyone will hear me like, whoa, wait. And then we'll like have an opportunity to talk about like, how is that going to like impact the overall UI? How is that going to impact the experience? And those discussions generally lead to a better solution.
Right. Because the general sort of thought is, oh, why don't we just put a check mark for that setting and like you can turn it off if you don't like it. And you know, like that's often a compelling argument. Oh, okay, well, if we do that, then we're satisfying both groups of people. Yeah. But then if we did that for everything, you'd have 200 checkboxes to go through for the settings of the product. And it turns out that we're like, no, we're just going to do it the way we think is best the times, or like most of the time. And that decision is not easy, right? Like it's a balancing act.
Yeah, and generally we get it right, but there are times where we will get feedback after a release where someone's immediately like, this setting doesn't make sense. And we'll like go in as fast as possible to make sure that like it's more clear. Because maybe we weren't thinking of a specific use case. So the ability to like be super agile and do a release to fix something is really nice. And the whole team is really good at that, being able to listen to user feedback as soon as the release goes out, and then adjust to what we might miss.
Very cool.
So we have another question from Louis. And Joel, I see your questions. I see your other questions. I will get to the other. I promise, if there's time, we'll get to your other questions there. But Louis wants to know, this might already be a thing, but is it possible to see notifications from Glow when you are accessing the tree view of GitKraken? So I guess it's more of a feature request for tighter integration between GitKraken and Glow.
Not right now.
Not right now. The answer is it's a future request. And my team's watching right now, so we'll probably +1 now.
So one thing I want to tell you, if you're a heavy Glow user, definitely get the app. We have an Android and a native Android and a native iOS app that sends the notifications to your app as well. So that's one way that you can get notifications no matter where you are, irrespective of whether you're in the app or not. So that might be one way to sort of get you part of the way there. But we do want to do better integration and tighter integration between GitKraken and Glow. It's just that we still have such like so many awesome things planned for Glow that we want to get done as part of sort of like, we still view Glow as like we're in 0.5 of the feature set, maybe even 0.3 of the feature set we wanted to build in version 1. But we were far enough along to where we said, this is good enough feature set to release it publicly, and let's start getting some users and feedback. But the plans for Glow are super exciting down the road. I think people are going to be very surprised as to what we're going to be able to do with it. And there's lots of opportunities. We just need to like hammer out a few other things that we need to get done, and then some of the exciting stuff is going to come out. But I don't know if you have anything else to add to that. But
no, I mean, we definitely see Glow as having a lot more functionality, and we want to improve the way that we integrate that whole process, right? So like GitKraken is a Git client that's very like heavily towards like the dev side, and Glow is more of like a project management thing, and there has always been a gap, I think, between like those two. So we're always trying to figure out ways to like tighten that gap and make that easier for both devs and for people who might be managing a project.
Yeah.
So not like having something that's super complex that devs don't want to touch.
Right.
Giving them something that they like are okay accessing that helps everyone get the project done better.
Right.
So we're always looking at opportunities to have better integrations for that.
One quick note is that what a lot of GitKraken users might not know is that we've been building project management software for developers specifically for 16 plus years now, since 2002, with our Axosoft product, which is still active, and we're constantly improving it, and it has a ton of users. So we're taking sort of all of that knowledge base, and we're hitting the reset button and saying, what would we do differently if we were to start a new tool from scratch, in making sure we get the ease of use and latest technologies, real time, like updates, so that you don't ever have to refresh, that sort of thing, and really sort of like incorporate a lot of those things that developers really want, and project managers who are doing software development. So a lot of exciting stuff. 2019 is going to be, an amazing year for Glow in particular. So if you love Glow now, wait until the end of 2019. By then there'll be so much stuff that you're going to be blown away by.
We have a question from Nexus. Hi, Nexus.
Woo, woo.
I hope Texas is treating you well. So Nexus has a question for you.
Okay.
What challenges have you faced with UI, UX, dealing with the 3 very different OSs, and adding Glow, adding to that mix of, now you have web browsers at play.
Yeah.
So what have been some of the challenges you faced just with cross-platform and now
That's a
web
good question.
interface?
I mean, one of the nice things about GitKraken is that we use Electron. So it's basically like doing web development for an application, and that keeps it really consistent across all platforms.
I see.
So building the UI has been really nice, and it's the reason why we went with Electron, because one of the things that we wanted to focus on was having a consistent experience across all operating systems. So if you're on a team and some people are on Mac, some people are on Linux, some people are on Windows, you want everyone to be able to communicate about their project, and especially Git, like on the same level.
Right.
So that was super important, and Electron lets us do that. So using web tools for the UI has been pretty easy. That's been really nice.
So it's been an advantage of choosing
Electron, definitely an
is that
advantage
it makes
for Electron.
developing for all of these much easier.
Right, so
And
there
makes it-
haven't been a lot of hurdles. I mean, if you know how to build web pages, you can build the UI for GitKraken. Obviously, there's a lot of complex stuff on the back end that like makes getting the data to that a little trickier, but as far as the UI goes, it's been really nice.
All right, Joel, I see your other questions. Here we go. Is there a possibility to be able to collapse the panels for smaller screens? So someone's working off a 12 to 15-inch laptop, and I suppose they might be talking about the left panel is collapsible,
Yeah.
but the commit panel behaves differently.
So there are some ways to already adjust the UI to do that. So the left panel can be collapsed. We have a view too if you want to see what that looks like. That's just the left panel doing filtering. We have another image of just like the main view collapsed, and that will show what the left panel looks like. So yeah, you can collapse that left panel in order to save some more width in your space. We showed earlier how the graph can also be collapsed. So if you have a really wide graph, you're working with a lot of people, with a lot of remote repositories, that graph can be shrunk down.
Mm-hmm.
So you have that ability to save some space. Another thing that may not be clear but is available to you is the right panel. So where you look at your commit details and all of that can be, we don't have an image of that, but that can be shifted down to the bottom of your screen as well. So for people, and a lot of devs in our office turn their monitor into a vertical orientation. So that panel can be moved down to the bottom so that you have more room to see your graph.
I have to try that. I have a portrait. Is that what you do, or you have GitKraken on the left? And
yeah, so I'll have GitKraken on the vertical monitor with the commit panel at the bottom, and then the graph has more room.
Damn, okay, I'm going to try that.
Yeah, so there are some ways to do that already, and we account for those. So try it out, see if that works better on a small monitor, and then if you have more feedback on ways that we could have some more UI customization, definitely send it in that feedback button, and we can get back to you.
And then Joel has a third question.
Okay.
He says, being able to shrink or minimize the commit area just to see the unstaged area better. I guess it's more of a feature request. Can you change the size of the commit message?
You can collapse and expand the staged and unstaged sections. So if you just wanted to see the unstaged portion of that work in progress, you can collapse the staged section.
It's like a tiny triangle. You just click on.
Just click on it and it will expand. But there are some improvements that we've had that are in the pipe to improve that whole panel too. So like we'd really like to see the ability to expand the commit message, which I know is annoying right now, but we're working on a solution for making that expandable. So there's some things that we can work on in that, but generally we have ways to kind of adjust that to fix the view however it works for you. If that doesn't work for you, again, send us some feedback on some things that you'd like to see. Our customer success team is great at passing those on to us.
That's my team. Yeah. Quick plug. A lot of you who are watching right now are already in the Slack community, but if you're someone who is not, or if you're watching this or you're watching the recording, you're welcome to join our Slack community at slack.gitkraken.com. My team, we try to watch it, we try to participate as best we can, but the community is also really amazing about answering any general questions you have about GitKraken or Glow. Also a great place for Glow questions. So again, you can join by going to slack.gitkraken.com. We'll post the link in the chat and leave the link in the description. Next is had a follow-up question. Okay. We have time for a few more. So what about an advanced mode only available if GitKraken is launched via the command line? And then he left a parentheses. I already know one that could be used. That adds a lot more of customizations on-off switches. So I guess like a power user mode.
Yeah, I mean, I think we would like to introduce more UI customization in general. Like that's something that we would like to do. I know we try to avoid the like preferences overload where you have like way too many things that can be changed, but really we avoid that to make the initial user experience better. We don't want to have it be a requirement to go into your preferences to get like a good working copy of the application. I don't think we're opposed to adding features that might be helpful for power users that can be turned on, because those would be layered in addition to the features that we already have. So if you have specific things that you'd like to see as a power user, then send those on to us and we can consider those.
Yeah, and Nexus, since you're in the Slack community, definitely post them there as well.
Yeah.
But you know, like you guys are all in software development, so you know how it is. You have this sort of like major list of backlog items that you want to get done, and there's a lot of nice to haves that you also want to get done. And it's like, where do you spend your time? So we typically go back and forth quite a bit. And in fact, we're having a strategy meeting coming up for the development team that's going to help prioritize some of those things and see where the team lands on what to take on next over the course of the next 6 months to a year. So it should be interesting.
Yeah.
I think we have time for one more question. This is a general question. Do you develop on Macs or use Windows as well? This is from Miklos.
We're all on Macs, but still different operating systems. There's a couple people on Linux that have Linux-specific boxes, but generally we all use Macs and either boot into Mac or Windows.
The nice thing about standardizing mostly on Mac hardware, except for the people who really want it, who we had to have some people that are like Linux focused so that we can make sure that the Linux community is covered. But all of our machines can dual boot, right? Like we can run Windows or Mac, and then developers can run on the operating system that they prefer, which is really nice to have that flexibility. And of course, Apple makes decent machines, so that's always a good thing.
It's always a plus.
Yeah.
Was that the last question?
That was the last question.
Wow,
We're
we're
at
done
the bottom of
already?
the hour. Didn't
What
it come by
happened?
fast?
Josie didn't ask a question about
Josie, she was like the second question.
No,
right?
no,
Like,
but about the key.
Oh, the
which is
key?
like
Okay.
the traditional
Josie,
question
we
about-
have been expecting you to ask that question, and
No,
you're more than
it's-
welcome to. But do we have?
I have a Keef over here that I.
just kidding.
no, I'm just kidding.
JK. All right, but that about wraps up our office hours. Justin, thank you so much for joining
thanks
us.
for having
Awesome.
me.
Last minute. So, again, if you're in the GK Slack community, feel free to ask any other questions we didn't have time to get to here. We encourage you to also check out our referral program. That's gitkraken.com/referrals. Get a chance to win.
There's a drawing today.
There's a drawing today,
right? Like,
yes.
So can people who like if people sign up right now can
Yes.
well, okay, yeah. So there you
Yes.
go. You gotta, and even
get
if you
your
don't
name in
win
there.
today, you'll be included next
you
week.
go.
So just
Yes. So all of that and more, and then we plan to do this again. So we'll see you all in the next office hours. Thank you, everyone. We'll go
Bye,
ahead and
everybody.
right here.